Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of SCROTUS. We are here again with the incomparable Colin.
Hello. I'm not even I'm like you wouldn't even use the comparative with me. You would
No,
have to use the superlative.
oh gosh, no, I'm not even going to go there. No, 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 no,
I'll be
not
here
not
all week.
not a
Like your
linguistic,
waiters.
not a linguistic joke or conversation going on there. We're going to jump straight into this case. We have a new case called Rudisil versus McDonough. This so 2 cases ago, yeah, 2 episodes ago, we talked about a case that it was the government not caring about its citizens, and that kind of
Shocker. What?
irritated everyone,
But no, but Mitch, they work for us. We pay them to they help us. They work for us.
or against us, but whatever.
Same difference.
So this is another similar case where you might get a little angry. Um,
I you
it-
know, I did a 10K run today, not to brag too much. I did a 10K run today. I'm pretty chilled out. I feel like I can get angry. It's okay.
well, your heart rate might go up a little bit, but this one is dealing with veterans affairs. So we're going to
Oh,
specifically be
yeah, I'm
talking
already
about a veteran.
I'm already I'm not a veteran, but I have veterans in my family and I do care about veterans. So I'm already angry because I already know that this is what this is gonna I already have an idea. Continue. Hit it with tell me, doctor, what is it?
So yeah, this case surrounds veterans benefits specifically in education.
Oh,
So
keep
yeah, like
going.
I said, it's another case that might potentially make anyone listening a little bit bitter towards the government. So they've put severe limitations and stipulations on benefits that veterans can receive in the realm of education. So you hear all the time, join the military, get your education paid for. There's some fine print to that very
Yep.
broad statement,
Yep.
and this case sort of brings out some of that. And I will say, not spoiler alert because we'll get to the end very soon, but a little bit of twinge of pain for what's coming. This case seems to be like an unfortunate punch to the gut for veterans, especially ones in this guy's predicament.
Okay.
Uh, I Long story short, I don't think the veteran is going to win in this case, and for a very
Do
specific
they ever?
reason that I will get into.
Do they ever? I
I would
mean, this
like to
is
think so.
Metallica. What is the song? Was it? I think yeah, Disposable Heroes. Yeah. That isn't that
Mm.
it? You know the one, I might have misquoted the title, although I think that is the title, Disposable Hero. Yeah, it's like
I'm
canon.
not the biggest Metallica fan, but I think I know what
Well,
song you're talking about.
God works in mysterious ways. We'll convert you at some point. But no, to be fair, their newer albums are not great. But yeah, no, I mean, Cannon Fodder, this is just yeah. This is a tale as old as time. Governments using people up and then throwing them away when they're, assuming you survive the conflict or whatever it is, that you just get thrown away. So,
And for the listeners out there, I want you to hold on to what he just said of using people and throwing them away, because this case does kind of ring like that to me. So we'll get into it. So a little bit of background in the legislation around the government giving these veterans benefits, especially specifically in education. So there was a Montgomery GI Bill that was passed in 1984. It lists many stipulations about the length of time you have to have served, the dates of service, all of that stuff for which to qualify you for the educational benefits. This specific bill, the Montgomery GI Bill of 1984, gives you anywhere from 36 to 48 months of educational benefits, depending on the amount of service that you gave. Makes sense.
right.
Then we had the post 9/11 GI Bill. That bill extended those benefits to another group of veterans, and it granted a little bit more money, for upkeeping in the times and stuff like that. So it didn't offer any more months worth of educational benefits, but it offered a little bit more money per month, and it offered the benefits to another group of service people. Both of these bills came with a time limit. So you had to use up your educational benefits uh, uh, within 15 years of completing your service. A little bit of a white pill, I guess, or a silver lining.
Yeah, you put a little white pill on your pillow at night, or when you wake up, you're like, oh, they cleaned my room. There's a white pill.
In
Don't
2017,
don't take random medication, by the way. We don't
no,
advocate that here. Yeah. Know what you're taking, talk to your doctor, make good decisions. So,
no, I definitely do not advocate taking random medications. We saw what happened in Alice in Wonderland, so do not do that.
yeah.
Um, so for clarity and completeness, and for a little bit of a white pill, in 2017, in the Trump administration, they passed the Forever GI Bill, and that removed some of the red tape and some of the time restrictions for those educational benefits. But it only applied to people who served after the year 2013. So
Oh,
this
so
particular,
the majority of Iraq war veterans, or well, like at least a lot of them, were just no longer eligible
well, they're eligible under the post
for
9/11
Afghanistan too.
bill. Yeah,
Yeah, but
they're eligible for the post 9/11 bill, but not
yeah,
for. They still have the time limit in place. Basically, is
yeah.
what that boils down to. So that's the background because those specifics are going to get into the details of this particular case. So Mr. James Rudisil is a veteran who served in active duty capacity three separate times. So he served for a total of 8 years
Wow.
between the years of 2000 and 2011. So 8 years in a very 8 years over an 11-year period of time. So that quite a bit of service.
Yep.
His service in the year 2000 qualified him for 36 months of educational benefits based on that original Montgomery GI Bill. Because obviously the post 9/11 bill had not uh, been passed in 2000 because 9/11 had not happened. So under that Montgomery GI Bill, he was granted 36 months of educational benefits. And starting in 2003, he used 25 of those months going to school. He took some time off going back into the service, and after doing so was qualified for even more benefits, and this time under the post 9/11 GI Bill. So the laws do stipulate, I think fairly, that you're not allowed to double up on the amount of months of benefits, right? So you can't qualify for the original bill, get 36 months, and then qualify for another 36 months under the 9/11 bill. That's a little bit, overkill. But you can use any unused months from your first program and roll it into the next program, if that makes sense. So in Mr. Rudisil's case, he had 25 months under the Montgomery bill. So he had 11 months left in his allotment, and he rolled that over into the new post 9/11 GI Bill because he was getting more money, right? From that new bill. Also, though, he should have been granted an extra 12 months under the Montgomery bill because he had that extra service, right? So the original Montgomery bill, like I said, granted 36 to 48 months of educational benefits, depending on how long you were in the service. So, long story short, Rudisil should have received his total 48 allotted months based on his time of service, and he's only used 25 up until now. Is that followable?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Now, in 2011, Rudisil was accepted into the Yale Divinity School. So he applied to use the rest of his educational benefits under the post 9/11 GI Bill, obviously, again, since it gave him more money. And they came back saying, okay, here's your 11 months that you have left. And that's where Rudisil was like, hold on a minute. I had more service. I should be given more months. So he appealed to the Board of Veterans Appeals, asking for the balance that he felt he was due, which would have been 23 months of benefits. The board actually agreed with him, saying that his multiple stints of active duty did qualify him for the extra extra 12 months on top of the 11 plus that he had still left in his balance. So specifically in their decision, the board used the tried and true method of saying, well, the language in the statute was ambiguous, so we're going to assume that Congress intended for veterans with multiple stints of service to be granted, the full extent of their entitlement. Everything seemed nice, neat, wrapped up in a bow, right? Not so fast. Here comes Secretary of Veterans Affairs Dennis McDonough. For really no reason, it seems like he just came out of the woodwork and was like, I don't like this, so I'm going to bring you to court. Everything that I've read on this case, I have no idea why this McDonough person stuck his nose in it. He's a Secretary of Veterans Affairs. Like, I understand that it's his purview, but it seemed pretty straightforward. So he brought this to Federal Circuit Court, and a panel of judges happened to rule in favor of Mr. Rudisil, but the panel was split in their decision. So I believe in a Federal Circuit Court, it's a panel of 3 judges. And so 2 sided with Rudisil, 1 sided against. Because of that lack of consensus, McDonough asked the court to hear the case again, but this time what we call en banc. So en banc means if it's a very important case with pretty far-reaching precedent possibilities, like in the future, you can ask that the entire bench of judges hear the case. So meaning every judge on this Federal Circuit Court, instead of just a panel of 3, every judge would hear and rule or make a decision in the case. They granted this ask and consulted all of the judges of that court. This time, the majority sided with McDonough, citing one specific place in the post 9/11 GI Bill. And I'm going to read that one place that they found, like the one little place in the bill that they found seems like Mr. Rudisil is not actually due these extra 12 months of educational benefits. So the bill says, quote, limitation on entitlement for certain individuals. In the case of an individual making an election under subsection A, who is described by paragraph 1A of that subsection, the number of months of entitlement of the individual to educational assistance shall be the number of months equal to the number of months used by the individual as of the date of the election. That's the main part. I'm going to repeat that. They're only allowed to use the number of months as of the date of election. Meaning, when Mr. Rudisil began using his educational benefits, that was the date of election. Under the bill, he only had enough service to qualify him for 36 months. And so because he chose to start using them before he had the extra service, he's not allowed to now all of a sudden go back and get the extra 12 months. Does that seem, I was about to say, does that seem fair?
Well, does that seem right?
So yeah, this is
Fuck
the
fairness.
problem.
What is
This
that
the problem.
correct? Yeah.
So this is where obviously usually I would get into the oral arguments for both sides as they were said in front of the Supreme Court. I read through a lot of it, and it really gets into the weeds of the details and the minutia of these laws. So I'm not going to go into it because it would become overwhelming. To break it down very simply, though, Rudisil is claiming that the post 9/11 GI Bill allows him in the statute. It says he's allowed to upgrade his unused benefits from the previous bill due to his new stint in active duty. And under those circumstances, he should qualify for the maximum amount of benefits, meaning the full 48 months of benefits. McDonough, who is the Secretary for Veterans Affairs, he points out, again, that one clause that I read twice there about the date of election. And since at the time Rudisill began using his benefits, he only qualified for 36 months. So under the post 9/11 law, he was only allowed the remaining balance, nothing more. And then just to stick the knife in and twist it a little bit further, McDonough also says neither the law nor Rudisill's argument adequately defines, quote, separate and distinct qualifying periods of service. So there's no like legal definition for what that means. And so could that mean, well, you never actually left the service, right? You weren't actually like ever discharged. So it's technically one long stint of service. Or because you weren't in active duty for, these months, is that then said to be separate and distinct qualifying periods of service? There's no set definition for those things.
Well, it all depends on what your definition of is. As a
Right.
great American once said.
Uh,
It's a joke.
Obviously, but
Soon
I had to catch my breath there for a
to
second
swallow
because
vomit is what you had to do.
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes. No, he was married to it. He is married to a great American.
The
Let me,
greatest of Americans.
let me
Yeah.
put it that way. No, but I kind of feel a punch in the gut for this case because it seems very clear to me, as much as I hate to say it, this McDonough guy is right. The law does sort of stipulate that he's not allowed to go back and retroactively add those extra 12 months. And I don't think that that's right, but it seems that the law says that. Now, was it Congress's intent for that to happen in cases like this? I don't know. I don't ever want to speculate congressional intent.
Well, yeah, the egregore of Congress is exists outside of our dimension, and we cannot comprehend its eldritch wiles. It will have its way, though.
It's just kind of sad though. Like I really feel for this guy. Like I feel that he should be given everything that he was due. And I mean, not to use a Scooby-Doo reference, but he would have gotten away with it. He would have gotten that extra 12 months if this McDonough guy hadn't just popped out of the woodwork and said, ha ha ha, not so fast.
Yeah. Um,
And
if I may,
I shouldn't make prostications like that because it hasn't been decided yet, right? The Supreme Court
it
hasn't
hasn't been,
ruled yet.
but I think it's likely that
Yeah,
it's not yet.
it
When
seems
when
pretty likely.
when does anyone rule in favor or do anything in favor of veterans?
I would hope the court would, but in this case, the law seems very clear. So they're going to side with the law, as they should, as they
You're
honestly should.
you're a better person than I am, so you have more faith in that kind of stuff. I don't have faith in that stuff. Not that I don't have faith in higher ideals, but I don't not in this system. It doesn't exist for that reason. It exists to burn through people and throw them away.
Yeah.
And it kind of does that to everyone, but it does it to veterans the most extreme in the most extreme way because it literally
Egregiously.
egregiously like you will get blown apart. You'll get killed or you'll get blown apart either physically, metaphysically, or both, which is usually the case is that there's both. There's physical damage and then there's psychological trauma and all the things that go along with that. And it's a shame too, because I mean this is going to get really depressing, but this is the topic of the day. Happy Friday. Whenever this goes out, this guy managed to get through everything and still be here, which is actually not a small challenge for
Correct.
service members. Was it Vivek the other day tweeted? Now, I don't know where he's getting these numbers from, right? That there's something around 20 veteran suicides a day. Now, I don't know where that statistic is coming from, but it is, regardless of whether that's quote unquote, the actual number, it's very high. So this gentleman made it through and then just wants to continue using the benefits that were supposedly part of the right service that he was, but he can't. It's like,
Right.
oh, so we don't want, but in a way too, I mean, it's really awful. I'm not downplaying it. I have that gallows humor. It's how I deal with things. Um, The it's like the system is being very honest. Not only does it not, we already knew it doesn't give a shit about veterans. It sends them to wars to kill them, and then it's like, oh, we didn't kill you. Oh, I gotta we'll pretend to care for you, but we won't. And then you can just, we would love to reduce the number of veterans. I mean, I really do think that. I really do think that that's the goal, is to just reduce. It's to reduce everything.
But
But also, the it's very clear that the system, McDonough in particular,
yeah,
as sort of represent, as mouth of Sauron, as speaker of the Dark One,
right.
um, is saying we don't want veterans in education. So
Well, that's a
they
whole
also
nother
want them to
thing.
be uneducated. I mean, like the proof is in the pudding, right? Like it's like, well, what do they do? Well, what does the system produce? It produces a lot of death and destruction. It produces a lot of broken people, and then it doesn't even put the band-aid on the sucking chest wound. It just says, nah, we'll just let it suck. We'll just let that chest wound keep on sucking, and we won't even try to kind of make your life livable. Or in this case, we won't even try to kind of do the thing that we said we would do. Nah, nah.
I was, I'm glad you made the point because I was going to bring it up separately anyway. The fact that he is a veteran, the fact that he has been in combat and he was accepted into the Yale Divinity School, something,
Wow. Respect.
but a very, very leftist entrenched,
Yeah.
area
Oh yeah,
of
no,
the
and that,
country,
but he's
and they still
infiltrating.
accepted him.
He's used to infiltrating enemy nests.
But I would
So
think
he's
that the
so he's
Yale
just doing what
Divinity,
he's doing what we trained him to do.
right, but I
God
would
bless
think
him.
that the Yale Divinity School would have looked at a veteran and gone, no, 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 we don't want someone who's
No,
actually seen the real
but you know what
world.
I mean. Like we trained him too well. It's like it's just like some movie. We trained him too well. Yeah. I will say, and I will keep this all hyper anonymous, but I have taught and worked with combat veterans and veterans in general, but particularly combat veterans of our recent slew of wars, past 20 years, uh, in higher education. And I will say, and I mean, it sounds very cliche to say, but it is also just the truth. They're like the best people. They're the best colleagues. And I had one who's like one of the best colleagues, and they're like, they usually be the best students. They always say sir or doctor. And I'm like, I understand. You come out of a military background. You don't need to say, okay, sir. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. Like, just they're always the most respectful. They're dealing with a lot on their plate. They usually have families, and they manage to do shit yeah. So that doesn't make me a great knower of, and that's not like a bona fide that I can speak on this as an expert, but it is just anecdotal. But anecdotal evidence is still evidence. It's like, in my experience, I want more of those kinds of students. I want more of those kinds of people going on to get advanced degrees, right? Um, so in fact, I will say this, again, all anonymous, but after I finished my dissertation, I was dealing with some serious kind of mental stuff because it was such an intense, I was teaching full time and finishing a dissertation. It was a truly horrific semester of my life. And the colleague I had, who was very accomplished, had recently gotten his dissertation from a very well-respected U.S. school and was working at the same institution I was. And he told me, "Oh yeah, you're gonna have PTSD just from this dissertation process." And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "Oh no, I have combat PTSD, and you'd be surprised how similar the symptoms are." And it was kind of like a dark joke, clearly like soldier humor. I think it was maybe no, it was Marine humor. But it also was very generous and gave me the permission to be like, oh, it is okay to feel like this because you're it's such a dehumanizing process. Now, he was never saying it was the same as combat, but it was interesting hearing from somebody who had been through both. He's like, the similarities and symptoms are noticeable. I was like, wow, okay. So that explains why I feel like I just don't want to do anything. He's like, yeah, but you'll get over. He's like, it takes you 2 years. So, okay.
Lovely.
So anyhow, just anecdote, but that's, I don't know. That's my experience with not with specifically with veterans in higher education, right? I've had
Right.
other good experiences too. Obviously, my father being the big one. But that is I don't know. I'm very much biased in favor of veterans, and I just I would love to say this aggression will not stand, man. in a very much Big Lebowski or the dude way, but from Big Lebowski. But I unfortunately I think this aggression will stand because this aggression it's just another. This is what the system does.
I want to, I don't mean to harp on it, but I want to bring it back. I understand that this McDonough man is probably doing his job, but
Yeah, so we're
it's,
doing your
it,
job. It has been established that doing your job is not an excuse.
yeah,
There are
you're right.
mid-century Germans that use that as an excuse, and it is just not an excuse.
So the fact that everything was going, everything was fine, everything was done, everything was wrapped, and he had to bring this to court for really an unknown and undisclosed
He's
reason.
not doing his job. He's not doing the job of what he should be doing. He's doing his actual job, let's say, which is to degrade the lives of veterans.
Well, to degrade the lives of citizens, specifically in this case,
In
veterans,
this
yeah,
case, veterans. Fine. But
because he works for the government, yes.
this is the managerial this is the managerial class, right? These cogs in the machine that are just quote unquote doing my job. Well, your job is ruining the lives of citizens, in this case, particularly veterans who are owed more than regular citizens. Just saying. They are owed more.
Yeah, they absolutely
I'm
are.
not saying they have more rights. I'm saying they're owed more, right? They have the same rights as everyone else, but they're owed much more.
And on that same kind of note, to sort of close this out for everyone listening again, the the case that I referenced before, so 2 episodes ago, we look at the name. I'm blanking on the name. Yeah, Mr. Kurtz, that's right. The man who paid all of his debts back, and then the government's, screwed him over and said, "Oh, well, we're not held liable." Him as an example, and then this Mr. Rudisil is another. These are 2 cases that should be known around the country. These are the 2 cases this term of the Supreme Court that no one is talking about. And that in itself is a travesty, in my opinion. Like these are the real cases that are telling us how the government feels about you and
Yeah.
how expendable you are to them.
Yep.
And no media, no one's talking about them.
It,
They're all
it,
talking about Mr. Rahimi, the guy we talked about in the last episode, and
yeah.
his
Who likes
stupid
to
samurai.
fire guns inside, and I'm still surprised something hasn't happened to him in Texas. I'm just saying. I've lived in Texas. I have family there. I'm just saying, I'm surprised nothing's happened to him. Um, the line here, I know that this is sorry, this is I'm taking your Scrotus and making it a bit more like a Wandering Humanist episode, but there's the line. There's a stanza, if I may, from the
Mhm.
song Disposable Heroes, which I got right. That is the name. It's off of Master of Puppets. It's a great album. Soldier boy made of clay, now an empty shell, 21, only son, but he served us well. Bred to kill, not to care, do just as we say, finished here, greeting death, he's yours to take away. I mean, that is the mentality. That's of the system. That's how veterans are treated.
I'll close with a return to the tiniest white pill that I gave, right? Which is that
We need something.
in
Give us something,
2007
doctor.
in 2017 they did pass that forever GI Bill that would, again, it took away some of the red tape, it took away some of that, bureaucracy of stuff, and God forbid if we ever get into an actual war, as we seem to be going towards, those veterans will actually be taken care of if they come home, in with
If,
educational benefits.
well, and there's a lot
Or,
of veterans.
well, and to be fair, the laws also stipulate that, dependents, like, so children are also taken care of educationally if someone does die in combat. So that's also a very good thing. But again, a lot of the red tape has been taken off of that bill, and the time stamps and the time stipulations have been removed. So there's a reason they call it the Forever GI Bill. So that is a good thing.
Well, you know
Let's
why we
see
have
if
to have a
that holds up,
you know why we have to have a forever GI Bill, right?
because we'll
Because
forever be at
fighting
war.
fighting a forever war, Joe Alderman. We should do an episode on that book. But yeah, it's yeah. So
You had to take my white pill and turn it into a black one now.
I'm just saying. No,
I'm
it's still a
just
white pill. It just
Yeah.
coexists with the looming darkness. But yeah. Um, disrespect Mouth of Sauron, disrespect people who hate veterans, disrespect all these people daily. They're not good people.
And with that, case dismissed.